Good morning. The reading this morning, the miracle reading, is from the second chapter of John, verses 1 through 11. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My time has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." This, the first of his miraculous signs Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him.
Thanks, Rob. So what about these miracles? What can rational, logical, intelligent people like all of us make of the miracle stories like the one Rob just read? By one definition, a miracle is a violation of the laws of nature. By another definition, it's an extraordinary event manifesting divine intervention. While scientists have long denied the miracles, that they even exist, Thomas Aquinas of the 13th century was among the first to understand a miracle to be something outside the order of the ordinary universe. Well, I like a quote that I found just recently by an early 20th century physicist, philosopher, James Jeans. Jeans said that the universe looked to him a great deal more like a great thought than like a great machine. The stuff of the world is mind stuff, he said. A hidden principle seems to be at work, organizing the cosmos in a coherent way. Cosmos. I didn't think that was a word we were using 100 years ago, but we use it a lot now. Hidden principle, coherent way. Interesting. Pretty astute thinking, I think, also for a scientist 100 years ago to suggest that without such incomprehensible fine-tuning, the universe simply would not have flourished these 4.5 billion years. Well, for a long time, science's silence regarding the unproven rendered miracles nothing more than illusion. But today's postmodern world speaks increasingly of the unseen, and even does so with a degree of respect. We're seekers here. We're all smart, spiritual thinkers. I think many of us even consider ourselves enlightened. So before you start squirming in your seats, uneasy, let me tell you that miracles have been cited and performed by prophets and wise men of all the great faith traditions. Stories spread of Buddha and his psychic powers and the miracles he performed that were all truly gifts of his enlightenment. Long before Jesus was born, miracles were recorded in the Old Testament. Remember Cecil B. DeMille's epic, The 10 Commandments? We all saw it. Literally millions watched as Charlton Heston, playing the role of Moses, parted the Red Sea. The Israelites raced across the dry riverbed, saved by those walls of water that would soon come crashing down, sweeping away Pharaoh's soldiers and chariots. It was written that Jesus did not inherently seek to seduce his followers, is recorded in the Bible. He even told the disciples not to spread words of his miracles. But I guess if one is trying to make a spectacular statement, what better vehicle than a spectacular healing, raising of the dead, or feeding of a hungry crowd? Seems like there was a lot of very direct divine intervention years ago. So why don't we see miracles like this today? It's a good question. But let's first go back to that wine and water story. There's no way really to know why Jesus chose the wedding at Cana to perform his first, you might say his coming out miracle. Weddings in those days lasted for days. Food and wine flowed freely. To run out would certainly bring dishonor and embarrassment to the family. Well, the wedding was heading in that direction. Jesus' mother was also a guest at the wedding. She turned to her divine son and asked him for help. She knew he could do it. She knew he could do something about this problem. Jesus protested, "Mother, it's not my time." Well, it's never been easy to argue with a Jewish mama. So reluctantly, Jesus had the servants bring those 6 jars filled with water. When the overseer of the wedding tasted the water that had turned to wine, he declared it to be the best wine, best he had ever tasted. And he even remarked something that every practical host already knows: serve that best wine first, not after everybody's already drunk. Well, the disciple John, author of the story, described this miracle as a sign. Signs are not mere miracles. They are miracles with meaning. They are intended to convey a truth that would not otherwise be known, to manifest a significance that might otherwise be hidden. Water, the basic necessity of life, is changed into wine, the symbol not just of life, but of abundant life, joyous life. In his book, Miracles, by C.S. Lewis, who is also the author of many books I think we've read, Chronicles of Narnia, Screwtape Letters, Mere Christianity, some great ones. Lewis pointed out in his book Miracles that this is kind of a short-circuiting. Jesus did something instantly that generally takes a much longer time. In Lewis's words, each miracle writes for us in small letters something that God has already written or will write in letters almost too large to be noticed across the whole canvas of nature. There are a lot of ways to look at the meaning and the story of this wedding. As the revelation of divinity, listen to one's mother, hospitality, live, love, and be merry. Did this miracle really occur? Did this event ever occur? Does it really matter? To me, the physical reality of this occurrence and the healings, the parting of the sea, any of these miracles, is not where the significance really lies. What is important, I believe, is the message of a loving God, a powerful God, a non-judgmental God, a God that identifies with man in all of our physical and emotional needs and provides. Jesus did not come to start a new religion. That was started by men long after he was dead. So let's get back to that question. Does God still perform miracles today? Seems like there was a lot of that direct divine intervention. So where has he been in these last 2,000 years? Well, I don't believe that God is in the business of doing the miraculous simply to amaze and astound us. Do we need miracles today? I say yes, but not necessarily in the manner that they occurred these many years ago. News traveled very slowly then. Jesus performed miracles, and it did authenticate his identity. But still, not everyone believed. If God performed heroic displays today that only a master of the universe could pull off, well, I think that the result would be the same. We would take notice, and then we would expect him to repeat these miracles again and again and again. People would be amazed and would believe. They'd believe God for a short time. But faith based on miracles is a shallow faith. It's not a mature faith. If we insist on the out of ordinary occurrences to happen in order for us to believe, doesn't it imply that God has not already given us enough? We don't need statements of God's greatness like these anymore. They've already been made. God doesn't need to repeat himself again and again and again by walking on water. There's no statute of limitations to the miracles that have already been given. If we choose to believe, we have ample proof. And if we choose not to believe, we'll find a way. Skeptics abound, even in the midst of all of the evidence of divine all around us. I suspect we all know what it's like to glimpse a land of promise and then to shy away. Spiritual life calls us to look at our fears, our doubts, our skepticisms, and to step into the unknown, into a place of expansiveness and of infinite possibility. And what does it take? Nothing more than to live with our eyes wide open. To paraphrase words of a favorite author of mine, Annie Dillard, we are made and set here to give voice to our own astonishment. Isn't the real miracle creation itself? Isn't the real miracle the fact that there's something in the cosmos rather than nothing at all? Isn't the real miracle the fact that there's unconditional love to be shared? The eye goes blind, the poet Rumi warned, when it only wants to see why. The sheer humanity of the wedding story in Cana encourages us to embrace the miracle of life. Even if you don't literally drink wine, you can appreciate God's call to celebrate the very earthiness of our passions and the intoxicating experience of pleasure, the pleasure that's served in human community like ours. The world is drenched in sacred mystery with many sources of truth. Why get hung up on whether the miracles of old were true or not true? Get rid of any hostile relationship that you hold with God. God is mystery. Spirit is mystery. Let God be God. I have not seen anyone raised from the dead, but I have seen the magical expanse where the stars light up the heavens. I've watched a radish grow in my garden, and my granddaughter take her first step. For some, our spiritual doubts and challenges will leave us before the end of our journey on this earth. If we allow ourselves to go beyond our small thinking and expand whatever limits we impose upon ourselves and trust. There was a brief moment yesterday. I was thinking about my father, who's old and lives far away, and a simple little tear ran down my eye. I miss him, but I also recognize that I miss a lot of miracles that I take for granted. But I also realized at that moment with that tear how miraculous and how precious love is. Breathing in, breathing out are miracles. Expressing our feelings is miracle. My life and all the blessings I have received are miracles. Religious dogma, which so many of us shun away from, only sets in when we stop asking questions. So ask away. Embrace the miracles, even with your doubts. Don't we all want them? Dismiss if you choose, but only after you've thought about the messages that they offer. When we look to light, we will see light.